And welcome back, everyone. We're about to introduce our next panel of Just Giants. I was spending some time backstage with them for about the last 15 minutes, and you are going to have a blast with their session. But before we do, we're so excited to announce that come July, we're launching our Small Business Talk series. The whole idea is paving a way for your prosperity. Now, Gavro CPA is the title sponsor for the Canadian Entrepreneurship Series, in which we have selected 10 deserving entrepreneurs, and we're going to be profiling their stories. But we've asked all 10 entrepreneurs to highlight a skill set and a mindset that they know every entrepreneur can benefit from as they integrate it into their businesses. Now, we know that 97% of businesses in Canada unfortunately fall or fail within the first couple of years. But we also know that 97% of businesses in Canada are either micro, small, or medium-sized business. Now, what will it take to help you succeed past that point and to enter into longevity? And that's what this series is all about. So by sharing stories of entrepreneurs who watch this struggle, that's right, we're going to talk about their pain. This isn't about, oh, look at how amazing we are. We're literally going to speak about the pain points that they have gone through, so you don't have to fall into the same pitfall and the path that they fell into, because you can learn from their mistakes. This literally could be a game changer for you. This series Small Business Talks will not only focus on entrepreneurship, but also innovation, cost control, future trends, and growth hacking. It's about the entrepreneurial spirit living in all of us. Now, what we're seeing is a bunch of chats. So there's a lot of barbecue and a lot of meat being grilled. Thank you, Than. We see some amazing interaction about what you're doing on Canada Day. So far, I got to tell you, Bhavna is still leading the race. So if anyone wants to challenge her, drop in the chat what you're doing on Canada Day. And now we're excited to present how to pandemic-proof your small business. We're speaking about resiliency, and we're so excited that Nunzio Presta will be joining us. He's the founder and CEO of buyandsellbusiness.com. And we also have Elke Rubach, president of Rubach Wealth, joining us. Nicholas Reichenbach, he's the founder and CEO of Flow Alkaline Spring Water. We have Shrad, CEO of Wagepoint, joining us. And by the way, ask Shrad what he does while brushing his teeth. Please put it in the chat. You're going to want to know what he does while he brushes his teeth. And we're really excited to have Christelle Francois join us. She's the current VP of Operations at FACE. Welcome, Christelle. And finally, our moderator and host, and again, title sponsor for the Entrepreneurship Series for Small Business Talks, it's Robert Gavro, founding partner of Gavro and Associates, CPA. Welcome, everyone. Enjoy your conversation.
Amazing. Thank you, Shiraz. And it's always a pleasure to be part of the Canadian SME events. They always put on a really great show. Would love to know, maybe throw in the chat, guys, what the top 2 takeaways are that you've had so far today. I'm sure it's been a really fantastic morning as we kick off today's event. So listen, we have a great pleasure. We have a great panel that we have the opportunity to talk about entrepreneurial resilience during difficult times. So we've just gone through this global pandemic with businesses closing, people having to shift their focus and change how their businesses operate. And now we're heading into maybe some difficult economic times with high inflation and potential recessions lingering in the future. So this panel really is full of successful CEOs and entrepreneurs from around the world. And we will be discussing how aspiring entrepreneurs can steer their business forward in these uncertain times. This particular panel will teach entrepreneurs how to make fruitful business decisions and build entrepreneurial resilience inside and out. This will also provide knowledge on social responsibility, brand awareness, and how to deal with customers and employees and adjust efficiently to the changing environment. Now, we've got this great panel, and I know everybody had a quick introduction. I would just love to go through and say a few incredible things about all of these panelists that maybe they wouldn't even talk about for themselves. So first off, I would like to formally introduce Christelle Francois, the current VP of Operations at FACE and the founder and president of the consulting firm Untitled Co. Agency. Christelle is a bilingual executive, an entrepreneur who has the pulse on the leaders of business, innovation, and advocacy. She possesses extensive experience in strategy consultant, where she specializes in growth acceleration, revenue model design, and optimization solutions for various companies and organizations. Christelle is the founder of a firm titled Untitled Co. Agency, where she and her team service an array of clients in securing corporate and government partnerships, cultivating digital strategies, and executing 360 integrated PR campaigns. Her passion for civic engagement led her to assist in leading the 2019 and 2020 Lobby Day initiative with our current Prime Minister. And in January of 2021, she was appointed as the president of the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, where she led a successful strategy that secured over $5 million in funding in less than 6 months. Ms. Francois was most recently appointed as the VP of Operations at the Federation of African Canadian Economics, and is also passionate about her community and has volunteered and sat on the board of numerous organizations such as Apathy is Boring and Head in Hands, and is inaugural fellow of the Black Wealth Club. So formally, welcome to you, Christelle. Okay, our next panelist, we've got Shrad Rowe. He's the CEO of Wagepoint, which we know we have a relationship with as well, being in the accounting world, which is amazing to formally connect here. At 40, Shrad is the CEO and co-founder of Wagepoint, a small business payroll software company that processes payroll for more than 18,000 small businesses across North America. In September 2020, the fastest growing company, founded Nova Scotia in 2012, attracted $10 million in new capital to help propel them to the next phase of their growth. Srad's business acumen is rooted in his collectivist Eastern philosophy. For Shrad, business is not centered around the individual. It's based on the community, which includes the company itself, their employees, partners, and the bookkeepers, accountants, and small business customers that they serve, which would include me and my team. His collectivist vision has driven Shrad to build Wagepoint into what he calls the kind of company I've always wanted to work at. And this approach clearly trickles down. Wagepoint is known for both their user-friendly payroll software and for being the world's friendliest team. Also, formally, happy birthday, Shrad. I believe I heard that as well. So amazing to have you here, and certainly appreciate our ongoing relationship with Wagepoint as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Who else do I have here? I've got Nunzio Presta, founder and CEO of buyandsellbusiness.com. Nunzio is a former pro hockey player turned entrepreneur and is currently the founder and CEO of buyandsellbusiness.com, an online marketplace where people can buy, sell, and grow businesses or franchises. He is known for his speed, endurance, and strong leadership. He has helped build, grow, advise, and set the tone for businesses with one main goal: to add value to the world. Nunzio is equipped with a wealth of knowledge when it comes to identifying, building, and funding businesses. He's also a thought leader on product development, leadership, business, and marketing strategy, and building culture. So formally welcome to this panel as well. Amazing. Love the former pro hockey player. We work with so many former pro athletes who are just, really high performers, right? It was just ingrained in them from day one. So great to have you here as well. And then we've got in here, we've got Elke Rubach, principal, Rubach Wealth. Elke is principal and founder of Rubach Wealth, a leading wealth management firm that she founded in 2012. Her mission is to provide tax-efficient financial planning to help clients build multi-generational legacies, drawing from her personal experience of facing an unexpected financial crisis. Elke has spent her career advising clients on wealth management, estate planning, and investing in ways that align with their values and goals. Rubach Wealth is built on her vision that all clients, especially women, need to be financially independent and she believes that conversations around financial planning need to be normalized and that it's essential for clients to be responsible for their money. So amazing, and a great formal welcome to you, Alki, as well. And last but certainly not least, we've got Nicholas in here. Nicholas Reichenbach is a seasoned executive and entrepreneur with a robust track record over the last 25 years, founding, investing, and building multiple business in the consumer goods, Flow, Simply Protein, social media, Rabbit, internet mobile technology, Magma Games, Beatplay, and entertainment and hospitality space, Guest Driven. Nicholas' latest venture, which he holds the role of founder and CEO, is Flow Water Inc. Flow is a sustainably packaged, alkaline spring water built on the power of mindful positivity. And we can see the packaging there. It looks amazing. Flow holds a B Corp certification and has partnered with Tetra Pak to distribute the water category and build a brand that aligns with consumer values for sustainability, quality, health, and wellness. To each and every one of you, what an incredible journey you guys have had so far, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you all here joining us today and to give your advice and guidance to that new entrepreneur and that growing business owner from your experience. So from here, guys, what I would love to do is I'm going to go through, and I don't know if everybody's panel is in the same order as mine, but I can certainly go through. I'm going to start with one question. I would love all of you to chime in, and I might start with you, Nicholas. So the question that I want to pose for everybody is, what defines entrepreneurial resilience? What defines entrepreneurial resilience? And Nicholas, would love to hear from you.
Yes, and thank you for being a part of the panel. Unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to answer one question because I'm here at Walmart in the USA, meeting with our category manager and doing my job, which is, nonstop persistence, tenacity, and a slightly bit of ignorance, which is, the real cornerstone, in my opinion, to being a successful entrepreneur. I mean, every business has massive challenges, especially when you're trying to break the mold and do something innovative and new, which is the cornerstone of entrepreneurship. And, after many, many, many years and, 13 businesses later, I think the most important attributes that an entrepreneur can have to survive and be resilient is to be completely passionate and committed to your product and your company, and to be tenacious in the way that you interact with the community and your supply chain, but also your customers and your consumers, but also to be a little ignorant to the powers that be, because if you knew exactly what you were doing, fear would overtake you. And so you have to have a little ignorance to it. Like Flow, we have the first and most sustainable package in water made from plant-based renewable resource material. Our competitors are Coca-Cola, Nestle, Pepsi, and large multinational beverage companies. And we came in wanting to change the world and make it a better place. But it involves a massive amount of change that we've done. And, I'm happy to say that we surpassed over 100 million packs last year, and we're really changing the industry. But those two qualities of tenacity and ignorance are the strongest ones to be resilient as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Nicholas. And I know you do have to run, so thank you for your contribution. Appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, Nicholas.
So great. Love that. Self-diagnosed ignorance, right? Knowing that, there's an element of this that we're going to allow to pass through and not let fear control us. And I couldn't agree more with that. Nunzio, I would love to hear your perspective on entrepreneurial resilience.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for the question. I think it's along the same lines as Nicholas. Having that passion and ignorance really, gives you the ability to showcase your staying power, and I think that's what it really comes down to. How long can you stay in the game? And if you're passionate and ignorant to the potential, pitfalls, you'll most likely stay in the game longer. And that's what entrepreneurial resilience is, really, to me, is your ability to showcase that staying power and your ability to also think long term, right? It's always it's about keeping faith and never losing hope in something, even during the most challenging times. So it's constantly about adapting and reinventing yourself and your business, so you can ultimately play in the game longer. And the longer you can play in the game, the higher chances of success. So that's what entrepreneurial resilience is really about, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I feel like, through the pandemic, a lot of businesses that found themselves to come out on the other side really successfully were really adapting and, capitalizing on that change and reinventing themselves. So I couldn't agree more. That's a very, very important point for an entrepreneur who's going to be resilient. Thank you for that. Christelle, would love to hear your thought on what entrepreneurial resiliency is to you.
Absolutely. So for me, when I think about entrepreneurial resiliency, I really just think about, how many times are you able to get back up, right? In the face of failure, do you have that staying power to keep pushing forward? But also, what's your flexibility to adapt, right? I think it's a critical piece as an entrepreneur to know how to pivot and when to pivot. And in those challenging times, to be resilient, sometimes in the face of adversity, you need to know how you can maneuver and adapt to the situation and also the circumstances in terms of the current times or any challenge you may be experiencing. But I definitely think having that stamina, because entrepreneurship is, you kind of have to have that marathon mindset, and so it's pace, it's focus, it's how many times can you get back up, and knowing how to pivot and adapt in those challenging times.
Marathon mindset. I like that, right? It is a long game, guys. It's not a short game. We're going to have short-term failures, but ultimately the short-term failures will, if we can be persistent and continue to push through, it is a marathon. It is a long-term game. We can't expect to break through the ceiling in the first 6 months or 12 months of our business. So I love that. Thank you very much. Elke, would love to hear your perspective on entrepreneurial resilience.
No, and I agree with what Nunzio and Christelle and Nicholas were saying. I would add one more thing. There's two things that I would add. One is that you need a little bit of crazy, and realize that it is a long-term plan. And for the first few years, you have your vision, you have your passion, you're doing things differently, but the world doesn't know about you, and they're trying to figure out whether you're serious, whether you're going to be there for the long run, whether you're making sense and you have something on what you're doing. So you have to prove the world that what you have, your vision, your passion, is going somewhere. So that's one thing. And very close sibling, if not identical twin of resiliency, you need to be resourceful. And remember that you cannot do this alone. If you do this alone, you're just digging a hole in the ground, and that's where you're going to end up. You have to build a team, get a coach, have good relationships. So remember that you're human, and also be comfortable saying help. And sometimes pride, ego, and vision, passion are a little bit the enemies of humanity. And that's when you start spinning your wheels and you go crazy. Like in our case, we're going against the grain. We're saying financial planning is not a rule of thumb. Don't do what your advisor tells you to do. Be responsible. So of course we sounded crazy initially, but we're changing the conversation and helping people be responsible and aware of what they're doing. And complexities don't help people. So it's been 12 years for me, and I've fallen a million times, and I've learned from them. And I hope, you take 3 steps forward, 2 back, then 2 more, then you actually get an extra one in. So you celebrate and you think you're there. No, you're not. It's a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this, all the contributions so far, everybody. There's been a lot of terminology that we've heard people say But I think now we've got a little bit deeper understanding of what those really mean in actual practice. Now, I didn't introduce myself when I first came in. So my name's Robert Govro, founding partner of Govro Accounting Tax Law Advisory. We help small businesses with all of those related services, and we've created a business coaching program called the $1 Million Year, helping business owners achieve that next level of financial and growth success within their business. Now, this is exactly what we talk about a lot, right? Is how we continue to position ourselves from where we are now to achieving what our long-term goals are. And, to echo essentially what everybody said, there's so much that's involved in being a small business owner. There's so much risk. There's so much setback. And Elke, if I say this all the time, 2 step forward, 1 step back, like be prepared for the step back. It's coming. Right? We have conversations with business owners all the time who are struggling with that. And I think there was an element, and someone had mentioned that you have to be a little bit crazy too. I think we would all be diagnosed a little bit with some challenges, if we went in, because entrepreneurs are a different breed altogether. Nobody would torture themselves in the way that we do to create something extraordinary. Like this group of people, and like many of you guys on there, we're a different breed. So one of the things that I think everybody needs for that resilience is to find your community. Find those people who are like-minded, are going through the same things, because we can't talk about our challenges and our setbacks with our family and our friends. They don't understand. They say, just go find a job then. We need to find people who are going through the same thing. And I think community is a huge element to help propel us through any sort of, or create resilience within us as entrepreneurs. So love that. Thank you guys for this. Going to jump into a second question here, and I'm actually going to have Elke start off by responding, and then Shrad, I'll get you to follow up as well in there, please. So the question for you is, do you believe that there is any such thing as an entrepreneurial gene? Can it be learned, or is it something that people are born with? Elke, I would love to hear from you.
Well, is it an entrepreneurial gene, or is it the element, the strength, the conviction to challenge a mindset that was taught to us? We are squeezed between generations, right? We're the children of post-war parents who came here and were mandated with getting a job with security, feeding the children, sending them to school, and off you go. Whereas for us, I guess the establishment, or what was taught to us, wasn't enough. It was not delivering the power that you can really, really apply to owning your own business and bringing your vision to life. So I think there's an element of challenging the status quo. Is it genetic? There has to be some chemical imbalance in there to do what you do. So yeah, I think it's not for everyone. I think we are special beings for sure. Like you need to be able to have a courage that goes against the message that most people got when they were little. So yeah, it's genetic probably.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And that's part of the crazy, right? Where you go, oh man, the genetics is, we were just born a little bit different. And I
can share an example. Just a quick example. Sorry. One of my clients, an intergenerational conversation, grandfather was a business owner. The father is not a business owner. The son, the grandson says, I want to change grandpa's business and be entrepreneurial. And the father says, what do you know? You're always partying. And then he answered, said, what were you doing in the 70s? So it was a challenge, right? So, and then that you need to just believe and keep going. I mean, not being stubborn to a fault and just being dumb. It's a fine line, and you can cross it very quickly between stubborn and passion.
Agreed. Shrad, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, the thing is, no one can really prepare you for this job, right? I mean, there's no book. There's no, every stage is different. I can tell you, running the company when we were 2,000 customers, and now when we're 20,000 customers, is just not the same company. And there's no way for me to explain why it's different either. Like I can tell you there's more employees and there's more, things that we need to do for scale. But what those things are, that's sort of something you kind of have to have instinct, pattern matching. That's actually the biggest thing that I think that I think I've fallen the camp of this can be learned. I don't think it's genetic. And the reason I think it can be learned is because when people, one, I want to give hope to everybody, right? So it should feel like that anyone can do it. But the other thing too is that most of this is pattern recognition, pattern association, and pattern recognition. And if you think, I'm not saying we're all like simulation or anything like that, but maybe we are. But no, just kidding. But I do think that once people are able to identify those patterns, they're actually able to move really fast through the process. And so even though, like I said, even though the company feels different to me in each one of these stages, the fundamentals tend to be the true regardless of where you go. You still have to have the customers at the center of your entire universe. And if you do that, everything else kind of just falls out from that. And I do believe that people are capable of this, of recognizing the patterns and then applying them consistently over time. And more than anything else is the learnings that you get when you make a mistake. And I didn't really talk about what I think about as resiliency, but for me, a lot of that is equanimity, is actually keeping yourself, whether it's bad or good, you're sort of consistent, and making sure that consistency is applied to everything that you do. So my answer, like I said, is slightly different only because I do believe that people can overcome. I believe that the best in people and the worst in people are both present in this profession, and that's why I think that most people can do it. They just have to, as Alke perfectly said, they have to believe that they can, and if they get that, everything else sort of falls in place.
Yeah, totally. And you look at somebody like an Elon Musk, for example, who can go from bankruptcy to billionaire so quickly now because he's learned and he's experienced all of the elements of, failure to extreme success. He's gained that knowledge along that journey. I certainly wouldn't want to bet against him on his next venture, right?
Yeah.
We do gain that knowledge. And so, to both of your perspectives, I think it's a mix for sure. There's got to be some foundational elements that allow us to embrace it. And then there's an element of us that is maybe absorbing. We want to learn. We want to continue to grow. Those are really, I think, some characteristics of strong entrepreneurs. I'm going to go into the next question here, which we have. What are some common characteristics of resilient entrepreneurs? Nunzio, I'd love to hear from you, and then following up with Christelle.
Yeah, sure. So I think the obvious one is that when they get knocked down, they don't stay down too long, right? They bounce back up, ready to try something again fairly quickly. But other characteristics, in my opinion, being reliable, focused, curious, and energetic. But to me, being reliable is probably the most important characteristic. And during tough times, when being resilient is actually tested, it's essential. And to take that a step further, being reliable is all about, leading with kindness and empathy and integrity and showing up, even when times are really tough. So I think a resilient entrepreneur is also a responsible entrepreneur. And during, those tough times, those entrepreneurs need to set the tone, and they need to be clear on their vision and goals, and they need to be understanding and generous and authentic and respectful. So it really does come down to being reliable. And when you create a mindset like this, you tend to bounce back quicker and easier, because not only will you have a positive outlook on things, you will most likely be surrounded by very supportive people who will pull you back up. So, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's fantastic insights. Christelle, I'd love to throw it over to you.
Absolutely. I loved what you just shared there, Nunzio. I think some of the additional characteristics would be, making sure that you're committed, you're open, and especially open. I think as is past COVID, I think one of the things you really learned as markets can fluctuate is the openness that is really required to know how to adapt in terms of new solutions, and just having kind of an open mind in terms of how you can achieve the specific goal that you're looking to obtain for the business. It doesn't have to be the specific route you initially planned out. There are other ways to possibly achieve that goal. But also it's having that, dedicated passion and discipline, because every day is not roses and cherries and you're happy, but that discipline is what's going to allow you to still get up and be dedicated and do that incremental work that's necessary, that has those long-term effects. So definitely discipline, committed, and having that openness for solutions, and to hear out your team as well, right? I think it's important as a leader, as an entrepreneur, when you have your team there, they're there not only to complete the work that needs to be done, but to feed into the business and to give you other ideas that you may not have considered as a leader.
Absolutely, and I would throw one more just to follow up with what you guys are saying. We talk a lot right now about the stepping forward and into challenge when a lot of people are pulling back, and that for me is a characteristic of somebody who's willing to go in and deal with adversity as well, and to take those risks, because a lot of people right now, especially when we head into a weaker economy, people are pulling out, right? That's why the markets are going down. People are pulling money out. There's a lot of fear, but the opportunity for growth on the other side is to lean in when others are pulling back, right? We know the history of the markets. When markets go down, they've always 100% of the time recovered. It's a really good example of small business to say, the people will come back, the business will come back when everybody else is pulling out, removing marketing, removing some of their services, downgrading. There's an opportunity to lean in, embrace it, and go for growth, expand on your marketing, reach out and capture the market that people are letting go. And I think, that as a characteristic of saying, let's lean in and let's embrace some of these challenges sometimes, because that's where the significant opportunity really lies. Fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for some of these insights. I would maybe love to throw it over to everybody and say, maybe in 30 seconds, what are some of the resources or advice that you would recommend to entrepreneurs who are just starting out on how to be resilient and maybe how to grow and achieve the level of success that you guys have? Nunzio, maybe I'll throw it over to you first.
Yeah, thanks. When it comes to resources, I don't think I've ever actually come across any specific resources when it comes to entrepreneurial resilience. It's all about experiences and living through it, and being open to listening to the things you don't want to hear, and pretty much embracing the fact that if you embracing the fact about how you actually look at failure. If it stops you, failure wins. If you move forward from it in a positive way, then you win. So it's really about learning from those experiences. And I think three things that I have really learned that could help with resilience is the first is start a business for the right reasons. There are a lot of people starting businesses for the wrong reasons. So really focus on the reason why you really want to start this business. The second is surround yourself with great people. So hire or partner with the best talent you could find, and talent that contributes. And the last thing I would say is find your cause, right? A cause is something deep, something that drives you past failures and keeps you in the game for a longer period of time. Because when you're creating a business, you'll need to be extremely patient. The rewards aren't always immediate, and most of the times you're going to have to go through a lot of pain to grow. So I would really focus on your reason, surrounding yourself around great people, and then finding a deep cause.
Amazing, Nunzio. Thank you for that. Shrad, same question over to you. What are some resources or advice you would recommend to entrepreneurs just starting out?
Yeah, so one thing that helped me a lot is understanding something called customer development. If you guys haven't ever heard of that, it's and I don't know if I'm attributing it to the right folks here, but It's the first time I came across it. Is a gentleman by the name of Steve Blank, and everything related to the like lean startup development. And really, the idea was to and is to continues to be, and this is exactly the format that I followed for Wagepoint. And it is essentially putting the customer, like I said, in the center of all your decisions. And so you don't think from your point of view almost at all. You think completely, you're inhabiting the customer essentially. And so a good piece of advice is in that particular framework and methodology, if you have an idea, the point is to test the idea as quick as possible. So you're essentially immunizing yourself or trying to create as much resilience early in the process, so that you now actually have some tools to deal with it as the business gets more complicated and as it runs faster. And so I would say that if there are folks out there with ideas that they really want to try it. Don't be afraid of the first 10 customers, the first 20 customers. That's where you get the wealth of information that you need. Don't think about the 100. Don't think about the 1,000. Just think about the next step, which is the first 10. And so that's the piece of advice that I used, like almost precisely to a fault, and that's what got us to this place. So that's my
Absolutely.
piece of advice.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I know Tony Robbins preaches this all the time. Give more value than anybody else. If you give more value than anybody else, you will win, for sure.
Yeah, just without a doubt.
Yeah. Christelle, would love your insights on this.
Yes, I love what you just mentioned there, Strat. I think, especially when it comes to failing fast, as they say, right? Fail fast, right? It's kind of one of the best advice I would give to any entrepreneur is jump in. Just jump in. Obviously, if you haven't launched the business yet, you want to do some preliminary, basic research to put your business plan together. But because I do think at an early stage, sometimes we think business plans are not worth it. But if it's just an idea, it really just does force you to kind of filter through that thought process in terms of what you're looking to put together. But then as an entrepreneur, you have to just make that leap, because that's the only way you're going to learn, regardless of whoever you speak to, mentor, whatever. You will really learn once your feet are wet and you're in the water, to really see how your clients or your potential clients adapt to your service or product that you're offering, and then having that agility to pivot as you need to. So I think that would be one of the key advices that I have there. But in terms of resources, I think being in Canada, we're extremely fortunate in terms of a lot of the resources that are available, from whether it's access to grants, loans through the BDC, or even for us at the Federation of African Canadian Economics, we offer capital to entrepreneurs across Canada, and really looking at the underwriting from a more holistic perspective. But there's also a lot of other organizations such as Futurepreneur, like I mentioned, the BDC, and even a lot of financial institutions now have also launched different loaning and lending grant programs for entrepreneurs. So I think it's taking advantage of those opportunities of capital, but also those networking opportunities are also important. So joining other, organizations, associations that have other entrepreneurs who are motivated like you, or even specific to your industry, right? So you can potentially find suppliers or potential clients or buyers for your business. And so I highly also encourage joining, associations, chambers of commerce, boards of trades, associations like that really help you kind of leverage your networking, but also potentially meet mentors that can help you sharpen your skill set in your field.
Yeah, and for sure. And to, again, one more leverage piece on there too is find a coach. I think maybe Elke, you had mentioned that earlier. Find a coach, look for the coach who knows your industry and who's been there, done that. Find the person that you would want to switch places with. If you could, don't take advice from people who haven't been there and done it. Find somebody who you would want to switch places with, and use them as a coach, as a resource to help propel you, right? We talked about the fact that it can be learned and it's experienced. And as we experience it, we're able to make these decisions and relearn these things faster and grow quicker. Finding a coach who's had those experiences will help guide you through those processes quicker as well. Elke, would love to hear, kind of last thoughts from you on this as well.
Absolutely. And I think if for our listeners, if you have a pencil handy, do these things. One, read Start With Why by Simon Sinek. 2, get a coach. Sign up for the Strategic Coach podcast. They have short and sweet little bits and pieces. Their program is not cheap, but it's worth it. But anyway, the podcast is free. Surround yourself with people who are not scared to tell you no, because you're leading with passion and you might become a little blind and make mistakes that people can help you avoid. So the coach part, indeed, get a coach, but as you said, Robert, for sure, somebody who understands your industry, because there's no shortage of people who think they can sell you stuff. And there's a point where you trust people and then you realize that that was a bad idea. Trust your gut. Sometimes you make decisions and you jump in and then you're like, okay, let's jump in. And then you realize that your gut was telling you that you shouldn't have. And that is kind of like the worst moment as a business owner, when you knew it and you did it. Definitely surround yourself with positive people. Today, you're the result of the relationships you had 10 years ago. So be strategic on who you hang out with going forward. And never stop learning. Just keep going. Apologies for that. Just keep going and be humble. And there's a point where you realize that slow and steady wins the race. And it's not so much how much money you make, but how many calculated risks you take and how you're able to stretch your last dollar towards growth. Because otherwise you'll find you'll be working for Google. You have search engine SEO in your mind. Well, you realize that you've been doing that. Another thing I did that changed the entire conversation was do a study as to what are your values and why are you doing this? Because we all hear people don't care what you sell or what you're doing. They care why you're doing. And until you reach that level of clarity, you will not be able to convey the message as to who you are and why you're doing it. And then once that is clear, then you add the layer of make it a killer experience for your customer, because then they will come. And if you're not clear on all those two things, that honestly, it takes a week to do max, you will be attracting the wrong customer and you will be smashing your head against the table and wall and sharp edges, because you're sending the wrong message out and the wrong people are getting your message and they're coming at you, and then you're just spinning in circles. So it's slow and steady, get a good coach, realize that if you're the visionary, that's another really good book, Traction by Gino Wickman, that gives a system to your business. You need to be strategic before just diving into it. So that's really it.
Absolutely. No, such great and wonderful insights by a lot of really successful people in this group. So as a bit of a recap on this, make sure that you understand your why. Understand the purpose for why it is that you are doing what you're doing. The more centered you are around that, the more people will buy into what you're doing and want to be part of it. That's not just for customers, that's for team members too. When they buy into why you're doing what you're doing and they are buying into the values that you're creating in the world, you're going to create an unstoppable organization. Focusing on clients and service. This is such an important area inside every business. We do client satisfaction surveys on a regular basis to always find that weak link to say, how can we make that get to 100%? We're never going to be 100%, but we want to get as close and strive towards the client journey as we possibly can. So Shrad, love that. The focus on the client development. Christelle talking about, embracing the loss, fail quickly. And I think a key element that she mentioned here, though, is that it has to be a conscious plan going forward. It's not just saying, just take on a whim, do anything that you feel like. We need to think about marketing. We need to think about the client service side. We need to think about operations and deployment. We need to think about finance. These all have to be considered in our plan. But once you've got this plan in place, or at least a concept that can move forward, you're ready to go. Take that leap and get going, but make sure that you're considering elements of it. We don't want to fail for fail's sake. We want to try and make it successful. So make sure it's planned out but embrace the fact that failure and setbacks will happen. And then I love the slow and steady and invest in yourself as well. Like slow and steady does win the race. And I know for us, we continue to grow and continue to invest in it, but it always has to be a planned and calculated execution. We want to make sure that we've got a strategic objective and that it's been well thought out before we actually take a stab at it. And as you continue to grow, you've got more of a foundation, more experience in there. We're going to continue to learn how to be resilient as we have these failures. So ultimately, go out, take some chances, have them well thought out, have a real strong purpose, and always be focused on customer development. Jiraz, hopefully that was a good recap, and I can throw it over to you.
I am speechless. Like the entire time I'm backstage listening to the gold that is just being poured out. Look, folks, if you were able to receive from these giants, like honestly, I would pay lunch, dinner, and breakfast, whatever it took to spend time with each one of these people individually. Robert, I get you on a discount, so we get to hang out all the time. So not Robert, I'm talking about everybody else. But Elke, I thought I was just joining on, and then I couldn't stop writing. Like I got more notes I had to take. Like, are you serious, Elke? Tables, walls, and then she added sharp edges. Like, okay, that was kind of devastating, right? She took it to a next level when she said sharp edges. All right. Now this is something interesting that you said, and folks, I'm going to keep you on. I'm being selfish. I just think there's too much more that you guys have to offer, and we won't be able to get all of it out of you, but I'm keeping you here for a few more minutes. You said this, Elke. You said it's not about the money you make, but the risk you take. Okay. Shrad, Nunzio, would you make a link, though, between the risk you take and the money you make?
I think that people end up being rewarded for the riskier, bolder moves they do make. So I do think there is a link between both of them. But I think the risk takers are really never starting out with money in mind. They're starting out with a different purpose and truly to add value to the world. Like, for example, I know someone was talking about Elon Musk. How he went bankrupt and now he's a billionaire again, or whatever the case is, how many businesses he started and whatnot. He started SpaceX, and he mentioned that there was a 70 or 80% chance that it was going to fail. But the reason why he was doing it is because he felt it was extremely important to do it. So he went into that venture not thinking about making money at all. But he took that bold bet. It was risky, and now it's paying off. So I think there is a link. It's just the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shrad, your thoughts?
Let's be honest. He's trying to leave us all. That's basically his whole plan. Right? He wants to exit Earth's atmosphere and go build a colony somewhere else without us. But yeah, I think that, I often use this analogy. It's like jumping off a cliff and building a parachute on the way down. That's what it feels like, because you don't actually know how far the ground is, what you actually need. You kind of have some equipment. Mostly it's like a small handkerchief, that you're starting out with. And then you're along the way, people are essentially giving you stuff, helping you. So I do think that there's a high correlation between risk and reward. It's just that, exactly as Nunzio said, you're doing it for the love of the game. You're not really doing it for the money. The money is just validation that you're playing the game well. But essentially,
can you repeat that last sentence?
Yeah, the money is validation that you're playing the game of entrepreneurship well. It's just it's the meter that you're using to keep track of your success or your collective success. But really, it's an outcome. It's not the input.
Yeah, and you also won't be resilient, right? You won't be resilient if you're entering the game with, I need to make $1 million within 6 months. You're going to give up quick, right? Because you're most likely, you're not going to make the right decisions. You're most likely not going to hit the $1 million in 6 months because it's way harder than people think. And you're just going to give up because you're in the game for the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah, and it was Paul Martinelli who coined the phrase "jump and build your wings on the way down. Right. This entrepreneurship, like I'm hearing you, Christelle, you're speaking about planning. You were speaking about, embracing the loss. Right. And it's never about 100%. It's about giving your best, whatever that equals. And if you give your best, that is your 100%. But just this concept of pacing yourself. But this entrepreneurial life is all about jumping. Like, you got to make a move, right? This is where I'm going with this. As you're making moves, wouldn't it be great if you had a community of people, or you invest in yourself, like info sessions, like this conference, like this? Here's my cheap public plug. Catherine, I know Catherine's probably chatting in the notes there. This book, folks, if you reach out to Robert and his team, he wrote The Wealthy Entrepreneur. And Elke, definitely going to get to you in a moment. I saw you trying to raise your hand there. My apologies. We'll get to you. I just want to get some thoughts from Christelle as well. This book was written by Robert. It's called The Wealthy Entrepreneur. This is why this is important to listen to sessions like these, because all of you, I believe, whether you get personal business out of this or not, you are here to simply invest in others in a worthwhile way. And hopefully along the way, you gather clients and you can all move forward together. So for that reason, and that reason alone, I wanted to thank all of you for making the time, because I know your hearts, right? It's there to pour into others. So I wanted to thank you all for doing that. Elke, if you could, in the chat, a number of people have asked for, we're getting notes. By the way, we're on multiple platforms, so it's not just the chat you're seeing here. We're getting notes asking what were the books you were referencing. Now, Vincent, thank you for putting in Traction by Gino Whitman. But there are a couple of other books that you had mentioned. If you don't mind just putting that in the chat right now. So folks, that's going in the chat right now. Please connect or please watch out for that. Elke's putting the names of the books there. But Christelle, question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Who is the ideal person that you serve and serve well?
The ideal person who I serve and serve well. Wow, that's a deep question. Truthfully, for me, in the work that I do, it would be Black entrepreneurs, and I say that because over the years, Black communities, especially entrepreneurs, have faced so many challenges and especially a lot of resistance in terms of opportunities and growth. And in the work that I do, especially at the Federation and previously being at the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, supporting entrepreneurs to having the information that they need to get to the next level, to help level out the playing field from a entrepreneurial and from a policy perspective is what drives me all the way.
Fantastic. And Elke, and then I'm going to end up with Robert, because I got a bunch of questions for you. Elke, you were raising your hand earlier. I was going to get back to you. You wanted to add some thoughts to the conversation.
I forgot.
That's okay. That was my fault for the extended delay. I'll take full responsibility. I don't think you forgot. I think I just delayed it to the point where it's like, it doesn't even matter now. So I apologize for cutting that moment out. That's completely on me. I'm a horrible host. My apologies, Elke. My apologies. Robert, listen, we've spoken about taking your time. We've spoken about, pacing yourself, and gracing yourself to allow yourself to grow into what you need to become, because you're not everything that you need to be today, but you will be as long as you continue to stay in motion. Oh, there you go, Elke. There you go. Go ahead, Elke.
I'm excited. If you start a business to make money, your potential clients will smell that and they will run for the hills. And that's across industry, subject, topic, gadget, whatever it is. If you're there to make money, it's not going to work out. If you're leading with a concept, a vision, and doing something different to enhance the experience, to enhance the service, to enhance the product, you're elevating and you will stand out in the crowd and people will say, oh, wait, hold on, that's different. And that's when you know you're doing something right.
Okay.
See, I knew that was there to remember.
Exactly.
Thank you. And just before I finish that thought with Robert, Shrad, what does Wagepoint do better than others in your category?
Yeah, so when we started, we made a concerted decision to focus only on small businesses. That's why we're here, right? On this particular panel, we don't do like, the people who call us and they say we have 1,000 employees, and yeah, that sounds really great from a revenue standpoint, but we say no, go somewhere else. We're not for you. What we want is if imagine if you're at a party and there's 10 people in the room, let's presume they're all competitors of Wagepoint. We want a small business owner to enter that party and go, that's you guys, that's us, that's who we want to be with. So we build everything for them. We only think about small businesses all day long. And for us, small business was a natural choice because they're people just like us. And they have passions, and it feels great to serve people who then go do some of the best work of their life for their own passion and feed their families. So it's just a great circular feeling of positivity and happiness that
Yeah,
we
so
get
can I
from that
insert a
group.
point on there? I mean, I think everybody all felt warm and fuzzy about him serving small businesses. Great. I just heard he's having a party for 10 people, and we're all invited,
Of
right? So
course,
that means if all of us bring a +1, we're there. We're going to be at 11. So,
done.
so all I heard
Yeah,
is Shrad's hosting a party. Just let us know where and when. We're all showing up. Thank you, Shrad.
done.
Thank you. And this is just it, folks. You want to be with people who know how to enjoy themselves. They're not just stuffy suits. These are real people with real heartbeats that want to move life forward all together moving forward. And so, Robert, you talk about pacing. You talk about, slow and steady wins the race. But there are times when you need to get real and hit a fast forward button. There are times when you need to turn up the heat and take on the pressure because the world isn't going to stop turning up the heat. Competitors, it's not that they're coming for you, but everybody is constantly innovating. You have to stay alert and keep on investing in yourself. Now, in January, you launched a phenomenal program. Now, folks, if you're not familiar with this, please reach out to him and his team. This program is called the Millionaire. Now, if you can fill in the blanks and if you can share what this program is in the next 2 minutes, I'd really appreciate it because I know the power. I've been able to speak to a couple of people now who are part of this program, and they are on their way to achieving what they set out to do in January. So can you please share a little bit about that, if that's okay?
No, I would love to, and thank you for the opportunity to. Yes, we created a program called the $1 Million Year, milliondollaryear.ca. In essence, we talk about patience. It's always being ready to prance on the opportunity. You think of Warren Buffett. He hasn't invested in the stock market for a decade, and now he's looking at the opportunity, and he's ready, right? So for us as entrepreneurs, yes, we need to be patient, but we need to be ready. We need to be focused on strategy. We need to be focused on accountability. And, selfishly, I'm going to have a little bit of a focus on finances. And I completely agree that we need to know our purpose. We need to know our mission. But as part of our mission, we do need financial responsibility. And that means that we have an obligation to make money. Doesn't mean that that's what we want to do and serve, but we do have an obligation to make money. And the reason is the more money we make, the more we can reinvest and the more that we can exponentially help and serve our mission and our purpose. So there is a financial element of this. So inside our $1 Million Year program, we focus on strategy, accountability, and financial knowledge to make sure that you're strategically prepared to capture those opportunities when they come up and to make sure that we continue to have the greatest impact in our small business in the world, right? Because small business owners ultimately together in our collaboration, in our growing and our scaling of our business with a great mission, we're changing the world together one day at a time. And we want to be part of it. That's why we created that program.
Thank you, Robert. And again, folks, I've spoken to a couple of people who are part of that program now, and they are well on their way because they're getting the coaching, the guidance, and they're getting their proverbial kick in their behind to keep on keeping on. And I think that's a big part of what accountability represents is when you have a team of people that wants to see you succeed and they believe in what you're doing. So thank you all. Elke, thank you. Shrad, Christelle, Nunzio, of course, and Robert. Thank you for joining us today.